To be successful, marketers need to be able to track their campaigns. One of the tools marketers can leverage to make that happen are UTM tags. Let's discuss how to create a UTM code to track your marketing campaigns.
And now it's time for some more DIY SEO tips with Jennifer Regina.
What are UTM codes? First, let's start with what a UTM tag is. A UTM tag or code are the text parameters appended to the end of a URL in order to identify specific criteria when a link is clicked. UTM tags allow marketers to gain more insight into each click. They make it possible to attribute link clicks to particular marketing campaigns. Why use UTM codes? Well, in case it wasn't clear already, UTM tags allow you to track campaign performance. They provide additional visibility into the acquisition sources. They allow marketers to identify which campaigns and variables, including channels and ad copy, were the most successful. Adding a UTM code to your campaign link will provide data that otherwise would be lost. In almost every case, the data you gain from the UTM tag is not available from a different source. UTM tags are great, but they aren't always the answer. UTM tags track acquisition sources, external links, whereas events can be added to track internal links. If you aren't sure if a UTM tag is right for your need, I'll add some information on UTM tags versus event tracking and when to use them. To get that link, just click the video description and you'll see the link to the full article, and that will have everything you need. So how do I make a UTM tag? Let's get into the nitty-gritty and actually create some UTM codes. Google offers a campaign URL builder that makes it simple to add UTM tags to your URL. If you use Google's URL builder, you can enter the desired data into fields and then copy and paste the final URL with the UTM code included. This eliminates the need for any technical knowledge, but you still want to understand what the fields mean to get the most value out of the data. Website URL required. The first item you'll enter is the URL you want the UTM code appended to. If you're sending traffic to your homepage, then enter your homepage. If you want to add UTM tags to a URL that goes to a specific campaign landing page, then enter the campaign landing page into the website URL field. Campaign source required. In the campaign source field, you'll want to enter the referring source. This will usually be the website where the link could be found. So it might say the URL of the referring domain, or it may be more vague, such as MailChimp or Google. Campaign medium required. This is where you'll enter the type of marketing campaign. Some examples would be email, CPC, or banner. Campaign name required. This is where you'll enter the name of the specific marketing campaign. Campaign term optional. This is an optional field that can be used to enter in keywords. This field is rarely used with organic efforts or paid Google campaigns. It can be useful for third-party Bing, Quora, and Facebook paid campaigns. Campaign content optional. This is another optional field, but can be very useful. This is where I like to add detail. If you're creating a link for an email campaign, use this field to enter the date sent and subject line. If the campaign you're tracking will have different variations, use this field to differentiate them. Trying different ads or send dates, take advantage of this field. That way, you can look at the complete campaign data using the campaign name field, but you can still break the data down by the variation when needed. Are UTM tags different for GA4? The method we just went over to create UTM tags is the same, whether you want to track in Universal Analytics or GA4. It uses the same exact tag. You'll be able to see the data in both profiles. The one difference you need to be aware of is right now, GA4 only shows the required data fields. There's no place to view the optional UTM parameters in the GA4 profile right now. GA4 is still being improved, so I'm sure this will change in the future. Right now, it doesn't hurt to add the other data if you'd like it tracked in Universal Analytics, and maybe someday it will appear in GA4 as well. For more information, Google offers a resource that outlines the exact URL parameters you can add to track campaigns via the URL in GA4. I'll add that link in the full article. To get that, just click on the video description. Make sure you entered the required fields. Do not forget to add the campaign source, medium, and name to your UTM tag. These fields are required. If you forget one and go to the URL to test it, the page will still load. The page won't be broken, but the data won't be collected properly. That means while the page is still accessible, you won't be able to view data properly in your analytics account. Use a URL shortener. Appending all of the UTM parameters to your campaign URL can create a cumbersome and messy looking URL. You don't want to burden people by asking them to type the entire URL in. Most of the time, you can hyperlink text, create a link, so the actual URL length is irrelevant to the user. But if you want to track a URL in a printed marketing material or on a social network, you can't always hide the link URL. To make your URL with UTM codes easier for people to use, shorten it. You can use bit.ly or ally to shorten the URL to a more manageable length. UTM tags are case sensitive. It's important to know that UTM codes are case sensitive. Campaign sources and mediums should be entered in the same way every time. If a medium of email is entered once and then email with capital E the next time, it will be difficult to analyze the data. Instead of combining those mediums together, they will appear as two separate rows on your data. For each case variation, added space, and typo, there will be a new row of data. This is why you'll want to keep a spreadsheet. Track naming conventions in a spreadsheet. Track your common UTM tags in a spreadsheet to keep your data as clean as possible. Staying consistent with your naming conventions will make it easy to review and analyze data. Once you start using UTM tags, you'll reuse sources and mediums often. Add these to a spreadsheet. Instead of typing them in each time, just copy and paste them. This makes it easier to avoid typos. Create some guidelines and document them on your spreadsheet to help reduce future errors. I'd recommend always using lowercase and never allowing spaces. You can choose to replace spaces with hyphens or underscores. Establish a clear naming convention for UTM tags and keep it documented in an easy-to-share spreadsheet. That way, if anyone else is creating a UTM tag for your company, you can share your rules and keep your data clean and easy to review. Where do I view data from my UTM tags? Great, you've added UTM tags to all of your marketing campaign links, but now what? Where do I find the data? Your UTM tag data will be available in your Google Analytics account, whether you have Universal Analytics or GA4. If you have both profiles set up, you'll be able to view it in both. Finding UTM data in Universal Analytics. To view it in Universal Analytics, go to Acquisition, Campaigns, All Campaigns. You'll be able to adjust the primary dimension to view by name, source, or medium. You can also add a secondary dimension with any of those fields or the optional term or content fields. finding UTM data in GA4. In GA4, you can find it under Reports, Acquisition, Traffic Acquisition. You can change the first column dropdown to Session Campaign, Session Medium, or Session Source to view the UTM campaign, medium, and source parameters. If you'd like to view source and medium together, you can change the first column back to the default grouping and add an additional column with Session Acquisition, Session Source/Medium. Which types of marketing campaigns do you add UTM tags to? Let us know in the comments.
Thanks for listening, and if you enjoyed this, please subscribe. This episode was brought to you by ClearPath Online, a DIY SEO tool for your website.